great to be back. Great to be here at JP Morgan Week. Really excited to do this. I was here 2 years ago and got the opportunity to talk about our CARB-X initiative and some of the things we've done at BARDA. And I'm really kind of excited to be able to come back 2 years later and talk to you again. Great intro. I just want to say again, Tyler Merkeley. I work for Health and Human Services within the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority at HHS. And today we're going to talk a little bit about two really special programs that we formed novel public-private partnerships with. One, CARB-X, that I spoke about 2 years ago, and one called the Division of Research, Innovation, and Ventures Drive that we launched this year. But the real story here is how the government is forming novel public-private partnerships with companies like yourselves, with venture capital organizations, and really driving national security programs forward in unique ways. So, ASPRs, so under HHS, there's something called the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response. And they have a really simple tagline: save lives and protect Americans. And we do this in everything from thinking public health emergencies that happen after an anthrax attack, to a flood, to pandemic influenza, to a hurricane. If the country needs to respond after a public health emergency, ASPR is responsible for making sure that we save lives and protect Americans. But to be able to do that, we have to have an innovation engine underneath that, and that's BARDA, the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. And what we're responsible and tasked with doing is forming novel public-private partnerships with companies like yourself to make sure that we have those key countermeasures that are available during a time of national crisis. So whether that's developing chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear countermeasures, whether that's making sure we have pandemic influenza stockpiles of vaccines or antibiotics or diagnostics, or whether that's addressing whatever the threat of the du jour is, so whether it's Zika or Ebola or the next emerging infectious disease, we need to make sure that we have those key medical countermeasures available to protect Americans' lives during that time. And again, we do this by forming novel public-private partnerships. And over the last 12 years, I think we've built a pretty good track record of being able to do that. We have about a budget of $1.5 billion a year. A portion of that goes to R&D, a portion of that goes to our procurements. We have over 200 partners in public-private partnerships, and we've supported over the last 12 years 42 FDA-approved products, cleared, licensed, or approvals. So we've had a strong record of partnering with the industry, driving that innovation forward, and making sure it's available. We have a large multi-flexible funding that we're able to use, unique funding mechanisms and partner mechanisms, which we're going to talk about two of those today with our divisions. But really, our success has been built in the way we partner with you. At BARDA, we like to say we drive innovation both in the science and in the business and the way we partner with individuals. We have to first look and say, why has the market failed? If you're developing a new vaccine for influenza or a new antibacterial or a radiological or nuclear threat, why is the market not there? What is the challenge in the space? Do you need a combination of push and pull incentives? How do we have to partner with you? Do you need new animal models that need to be able to develop so we can push you through regulatory approval? And we looked at every single one of our threat areas in a different way, and we designed programs around them. And we'll talk about how we did that with CARB-X. But across our portfolio, we form novel public-private partnerships. We use our broad agency announcement as a non-dilutive vehicle to be able to partner. We have a combination of both clinical and non-clinical services that we can provide to you and leverage support, and we have expertise. And a couple years ago, we started a new concept. We said, hey, if we want to drive innovation to our organization, how do we do that so we have really disruptive innovation in our portfolio? Because most of the programs BARDA had traditionally supported were TRL 6 to 9, so phase 1 to phase 3. But to get new innovation and drive and look for new partners, we had to find new vehicles and new ways to do that, going to different places and finding new innovators. So we came up with our accelerator concept. And in 2014, when we did the national strategy for combating antibiotic-resistant bacteria, my boss, Joe Larson, at the time came to me and said, hey, Tyler, we want to find a new innovative model that we could use. And instead of trying to come up with a new structure, we said, well, what is industry already using? Well, they're using incubators and accelerators out in the field for early companies to provide support. So how do we build the Combating Antibiotic-Resistant Bacteria Accelerator? It became known as CARB-X. It was a hope and a dream in 2014 in a national document. In 2015, a bipartisan group in Congress gave us funding to be able to move that program forward. In 2016, we launched that program, and in 2017, I have a slide when I came and talked to you guys about our hope and a dream of what it was going to be. Today, we're going to talk about how we built that. After we built Drive or CARB-X, we had the opportunity to start thinking about how do we continue to build on the CARB-X model of public-private partnerships, and how do we do that? So we'll talk a little bit today about Drive. Just 2 programs within BARDA focused on driving innovation forward. I'm going to have a couple slides today that I'm reusing. I like to recycle slides every once in a while. So to note it so you don't think that I've showed you this slide 2 years ago and I'm back showing you the same slide, I actually acknowledge it's a reminder from our slide we talked about. Because I think this went really well over when I talked to you about the benefits of a non-dilutive funding. We are at the Non-Dilutive Funding Summit, so it's a great topic. When you partner with BARDA, we take no equity, right? We don't have loans or convertible loans. I know some nonprofits out there have strings attached. We don't put those kind of strings attached. There's no requirement for revenue sharing. You maintain your IP, okay? It's really important to us that what our preparedness is, or our return on investment is return on preparedness. We're excited about accelerating your product forward so it can be available in a time of national need. So we measure our return based on the amount of products we get FDA approved that are available to protect lives and save Americans. You obviously want to move your product forward and make a return for the venture capital community. We partner with you by providing non-dilutive capital to the companies to be able to drive that program forward. So money, everybody always wants money. Show me the money, it's really easy. The thing that's often forgotten about the partnerships when you come in and partner with government is the things on the right. We have one of the advantages is we work with a lot of companies in the same thing. So if you're working on a vaccine development, you're working on an antibacterial, we're going with each of our companies to the FDA. We're hearing what the FDA is saying. We're seeing new trends in the field. So we're able to advise you when you're getting ready for your pre-IND meeting about the things that we think are going to be important to the FDA that might not everybody be able to see. And we can share that with you in a non-proprietary way. We provide pre-consulting support. We have over 50 members of our team that are former industry members, typically later stages in their career, that come to government to give back in a way to help drive innovation forward, but also provide that key expertise that we need to help you move your company forward. So think about this as free consulting support. People you would charge $500, $600, $700 an hour to provide support are now inside our team, and they're able to advise you in those things forward. We, like venture capital, use milestone commitments to drive your innovation forward. We might give you a large award for $50 million, but we're going to tranche that money to make sure that we hit those technical milestones to move those programs forward. That's important for us because we're using taxpayers' dollars. It's also important for your venture capital community to make sure we're driving those programs forward. And we have a scientific and business due diligence team that provides support. So it's not just about the money. When you're thinking about a strategic partner, just like you're thinking about a strategic partner and maybe an industry you're going to partner with, make sure you think on the government side, are they going to provide other values to you in the program? At BARDA, we take great pride on being able to do that. So, CARB-X. Really excited to be able to say that we now are the largest global public-private partnership to develop antibiotics. In 2014, we had a problem. We had a strong antibacterial program at BARDA, investing in programs from phase 1 to phase 3. But we kept seeing the next tetracycline come around, next to fluoroquinolone. We weren't seeing the novel target, the novel classes of antibiotics. We weren't seeing those non-traditional approaches came through. So we said, hey, if we keep going and funding this the way we are, we're going to fund the same old things again, and we're not going to have the disruption we want to have. We're not going to change the paradigm. So how do we find that novel class? That was our problem. So we turned to the incubator and accelerator model. We said, let's go early. Let's form a novel public-private partnership with industry. Let's leverage the accelerator model. Let's bring the international community together. And over the last 2 years, we've been able to bring a strong partnership. We started with NIH and the Wellcome Trust, and we had a $250 million commitment to develop a program. We're now up to $500 million this year in May. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation joined us, and the UK government joined us to push the program forward. We have a great scientific advisory board. We'll talk about our portfolio in a minute, but CARB-X really has rejuvenated the pipeline for us and made sure that we had robust. And one of the exciting things that came out of this is we thought maybe there just wasn't the innovation out there. The innovation was there. There just wasn't the right business model that was business friendly to companies like yourself to really push and accelerate those programs forward. We just had to find the right business model to get the capital out there, to bring the partners together to accelerate the program forward. So we had to get the right business structure. We got that, we pushed it forward. Here's a reminder. I sat here 2 years ago and we had a hope and a dream we were gonna have programs. At the time we had 350 applications in. We hadn't funded a single program yet. We were only 6 months into the program. 2 years later, I wanted to give you an overview of what our portfolio looks like today within CARB-X. And honestly, it no longer fits on a single slide anymore, which I think is a good thing. We have over 10 new classes of antibiotics in the CARB-X portfolio today. 11 of them are new molecular targets, 19 small molecules, 10 non-traditional approaches and 1 vaccine. We're hoping to expand that this year. 5 diagnostics. And what's really exciting is we've already moved 5 products from preclinical development into the clinic, which was a key aspect of being able to drive that program forward. So providing science and business support is key. But one of the things we knew is the government can't fund this all themselves on non-dilutive. We need to figure out how do we get the venture capital community to invest in these early stage companies and drive them forward. And when I was here 2 years ago, we introduced the concept of being powered by CARB-X. And I told the venture capital community, if you see someone's powered by CARB-X, it means that it's been vetted by Wellcome Trust, by NIH, by BARDA, and we've provided non-diluted capital into that. And what's been amazing to see is the amount of capital that has flown into these companies after we've made our initial investment. And it's always challenging to say exactly why did the money, but many of the companies we're focused on are just focused on antibacterials. We've had over 14 different private funds that have funded into companies. We funded, this data is as of September, we updated about every 3 to 6 months. We had $807 million in private capital follow our initial $92 million that we've invested in the program. So an over 8 to 9x return on private capital. That capital allows those programs to drive forward. So it's another example of the leverage investment we've been able to make with the Powered by CARB-X brand. That's really important. That's capital that's in companies now that are able to move those programs forward and other things in their pipeline. We think this is a key metric to the success. And this is in the antibacterial space where we all know the return on investment is pretty low and it's a challenging market. So imagine if we were in a slightly different market, these are the companies that have gotten return. So when we build a program at BARDA, we don't build a program and then try to come up with the metrics of success later. We try to start from the beginning on what our metrics of success are to make sure we actually achieve those metrics of success. So when I was here 2 years ago, we talked about what our goals were for these programs, and I'm excited to say 2 years later, we're back here to achieve. We wanted to populate a portfolio, a diverse portfolio. Our goal was to have 20 assets in the portfolio at the end of 5 years. We had 20 assets in the portfolio before the end of the first year. We have over 35 assets in the portfolio today. We wanted to develop a network that provided R&D capabilities. We've built a really strong scientific advisory board and a wraparound science and business support network through our accelerators that are providing the companies we partner with the resources they need to transform those programs forward. We're performing the function of being an accelerator and actually driving these programs forward. We've progressed things into the clinic. Again, a key goal was to make sure that we could transition things into the clinic so we could then invest in those in later stage development has been a key spec, and we've been providing the business support of the accelerators. So naturally, when you do this, your leadership comes back to you and said, hey, CARB-X has worked really well, what do we do next? And 2 really kind of great examples have come out of what we've been able to do from HHS. One, there's this little program called KidneyX. Comes to the namesake from CARB-X, again, a public-private partnership working to disrupt kidney disease and how we treat patients, how we develop new dialysis in the programs. And I think Sandeep might be here somewhere today, who's our PM who runs that program, and he's been doing an absolutely great job on taking the principles of what we did with CARB-X and also using prizes. He's got a $25 million prize out there right now to develop new things to address KidneyX. So across HHS, CARB-X has been seen as a model that can be used to address other threats in the chronic disease space. And then within BARDA, we recognized that we needed to take this concept with the accelerated model and we needed to expand it into new spaces. So now I want to tell you a little bit about our new division of Research, Innovation, and Ventures. So DRIVE was only launched about 7 months ago in June 2018. This time last year, it was something we were kind of grafting on paper of what we want to put together. But now we have a full new division at BARDA that's focused on transforming health security. And we're looking for disruptive innovation and transforming and pushing that program forward so it can impact our programs. If you think about BARDA, we're a lot like a large pharmaceutical company. We have 42 FDA-approved products. What naturally does leadership need to do? They need to continue to deliver FDA-approved products, new countermeasures to protect lives and save Americans. But like large pharma, we have to look back in our pipeline and say, hey, where's the innovation coming from? What's in our preclinical stage? What's in phase 1? What's going to be our next generation of programs we push forward? So we spent a lot of time as an organization after we built the accelerator looking at the innovation models, and we've kind of focused on J&J's innovation model was we wanted to leverage a combination of incubators and accelerators, a venture arm, a non-dilutive arm, more of a R&D arm like Janssen. So we built out a new division that's built to partner with you in any way that you need to partner with because we recognize every relationship is slightly different. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to try to play this video.
At the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, ASPR is always on the lookout for innovative ways to save lives and protect Americans, especially during national emergencies. BARDA has the solution. DRIVE, the Division of Research, Innovation, and Ventures, tackling the big problems across all health security threats. DRIVE draws together the experience and proven track record of BARDA, the innovative ideas and knowledge from the scientific community, and highly successful venture capital investment practices. DRIVE brings a new spirit of restless innovation to health security. DRIVE will target the once impossible to make dramatic progress in combating 21st century health security threats. What challenges threaten our health security? Sepsis, for one. Sepsis is the body's life-threatening response to an infection. This can happen when something like an infection you already have in your lungs, skin, urinary tract, or somewhere else triggers an overreaction by your body, and it starts fighting itself. More than 1.5 million people in the U.S. get sepsis each year, leading to about 250,000 deaths. It's a real-life concern today, and an imminent concern if we face a chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear attack. DRIVE is also looking at creating personal devices that tell you you're getting sick before you really feel sick. You could take immediate action by taking medications that often work best when they're taken early, and taking steps to keep others from getting sick. When you consider something as common as seasonal flu, that alone makes the technology tremendously helpful. It's time to start solving the challenges that all health security threats have in common. That means changing the way government approaches the nation's health security and our preparedness to respond to those threats. Hyper-focusing on innovators nationwide, connecting federal resources, the scientific community, and venture capital investors. That's the way to solve these big health issues. And that means it's time for DRIVE. DRIVE, transforming health security. Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
All right. So I thought the video was a nice way to give an overview. But I want to talk to you a little bit about our principles at BARDA and at DRIVE in our program. And first, it's about empowerment. We believe that every American should have health information available so that they can be informed on their health condition and can make important decisions. We think every American should have personalized information so their medical provider should have the information they have during a public health emergency to make everything. We also think we should empower innovators in our country, across the country, to come up with different ideas and strategies to solve our national security needs. We don't believe you should only have to be from San Francisco, Boston, or San Diego to provide solutions for national health security. We want to decentralize innovation across the country and around the world so we get the best solutions so that they're available at a time of crisis and develop and move those programs forward. And that's why we're going to talk about our regional accelerators that are across the country, helping us prospect for innovation and look for new opportunities. We have a sense of urgency. It can be challenging sometimes when you think about the anthrax attacks that were over a decade ago, pandemic influenza, even Ebola seems like a while ago for the initial things. We have Ebola back again. But we want to really push a sense of urgency. It shouldn't take a year for you to apply for funding to find out if you got it. Your company's going to go out of business by then. You're going to be short on resources. How do we get you money in 35 to 45 days so you can accelerate innovation forward? That's the kind of urgency that we're bringing as we're funding programs within Drive. We want this to be scalable. We see Drive as a sandbox for BARDA. We're trying out new innovative concepts. We're partnering with you in new ways. Things that work, we're going to scale them across BARDA and across the government. Things that don't work, we'll go back to the drawing board and try again. We are BARDA's sandbox is when we drive these programs forward. Collaboration has been key for everything we have done at BARDA. It's why we have 42 FDA-approved products. It's why we have the relationship with industry and with the venture capital community to drive those forward. We want to continue to build on that and build on that in new ways. And lastly, we are an early-stage innovator to drive more disruptive innovation to BARDA for our long-stage portfolio. So it's really important for us that we find that disruptive innovation, and we're going to talk about that in the kind of new partners that we're looking for. At BARDA, we think about how we respond to a public health emergency, whether it's anthrax or pandemic influenza or a sarin attack, across the whole pendulum of the pipeline. We need to be able to identify what the threat is, right? We need to be able to have a solution design. We need to be able to respond to that. We need to be able to have countermeasures that we can develop and are available to be deployed, and we need to be able to administer that. For too long, we had a division that did diagnostics, and then a therapeutics division, a vaccine division that were working across the field but weren't integrated. What's unique about Drive is our team owns the whole paradigm. We have a Solving Sepsis initiative. They're responsible for everything from partnering with the CDC on education, the whole way through, you getting into the emergency room, you getting to the ICU, you getting released and making sure you don't come back for readmission. We've integrated that across the whole disease pipeline to make sure that overall their job is reducing mortality, morbidity, and healthcare costs. So they're looking at all the solutions that have that impact, not just on diagnostics or treatment or awareness. To do this, we recognized we needed to take some practices that we had built in CARB-X with our accelerator model, but also bring in some new partnerships and new strategies to do this. So our regional accelerators are really important for us because you are our boots and eyes on the ground that see these innovations. 50% of the programs that are currently funded by Drive didn't even know who BARDA was before they met us through our accelerators. That's how you decentralize innovation. Right? You look for new partners who are out in the field. They're working with a company that thought they were going to med tech. They suddenly say, hey, there's a national security need. Your technology might work. And BARDA gives you non-diluted capital to invest both your commercial indication and the indication they need you for biodefense or pandemic influenza. So that's how we bring your partnership forward. So think about that just like you would think about any other strategic partner on how you're aligned and who's going forward. Now, I know this is a non-diluted conference, so I'm not supposed to talk about diluted capital, but what I can say is this time next year, we hope to have a third-party nonprofit entity that's working on our behalf to also be able to take equity through partnerships. We're not going to get away from using our $1.5 billion to supply non-diluted capital, but we also are going to be able to take a small equity component if it makes sense in companies. And that's just like a corporate venture capital would take a seed investment and potentially bring that on. So depending on what your company needs at the stage, and we're all going to be at different stages at different times, we're going to be able to provide the support to you need to move those programs forward. And lastly, we have our Drive-X program. And our Drive-X is our non-diluted vehicle, what we call the Easy BAA. It allows us to make awards in 30 to 60 days. And we can do it up to $749,000. And that $749,000 is a key amount because it allows you to get a proposal into us without a certified cost proposal. And we can rapidly make those awards. Only 4,000 words you need to write in your technical abstract and a 4,000 word cost proposal. That's like one page. First company got theirs in 48 hours after we put it online. It allows us to quickly look at innovation, see what's there, have follow-along conversations. Sometimes we move you forward, sometimes we reject you and tell you to come back and apply again, but it allows us to rapidly look at over 190 applications we've had to date and fund about 10% of those. So I mentioned our regional accelerators across the network. Again, this is building on what we did with CARB-X. We now have 8 regional networks across the country. And what we did is we looked and said, okay, where is innovation happening across the country? And we identified 15 nodes in the country. We looked at things like patent and venture capital dollars we're going to and what were in the ecosystem. But we also had our team model some different dynamics to make sure we weren't just getting the same cities you were used to seeing. We ended up looking at the number of square foot of lab space based on real estate as a potential metric to identify where different groups were. We looked at incubators and accelerators. And our map that we identified originally had a lot of programs in the middle of the country. We didn't get any applications in that space. We're going to expand this network as we go. But just again, communicating that we're really thinking about decentralizing innovation, and we're then partnering our innovators up with local accelerators through the program to provide them that science and business support that might be a little bit more local. This is also really important when you're in Washington, you're a little bit in a bubble. I don't know the cool science that's going on. I don't know all the great programs, but when I come out here, I get to meet with someone, my accelerator introduces me to a group, and we take those ideas back to Washington, and we think about how we can drive that innovation forward. So having that local node is really important for us, and if you're interested in being an accelerator with us, we're going to be continuing to expand this program. So I want to talk to you about Drive, kind of 3 areas that we're making some initial investments in. We're going to try to build these programs up. Our goal is to have about a $25 to $50 million investment in each one of these pipelines. When my leadership gives me another $25 to $50 million, we'll expand to another impact area and build a team around it. What we learned from CARB-X is you got to be hyper-focused on the teams you have. Okay? Because you want to bring the best antibacterial experts, the vaccine experts. With ENACT and our wearables, we want to bring really focused teams around them to provide support. So our impact areas are very hyper-focused for ENACT and Sepsis. So all they work on, they have a very specific goal they need to deliver. And then we have some other areas of interest, and I'll talk about that. Our other area of interest is really about disruptive innovation. There, what we're looking for is that disruptive innovation. It's the Airbnb, the Uber of healthcare, okay? What is going to change the platform? Imagine 3D printing of vaccines that could be done in a public health emergency. You could have a GMP-compliant printer next to you you could get your vaccine from. That's the kind of disruption that we're looking for. It might be 10, 15 years out, but we're focused in that area. So if you have something really disruptive that could help us in national security, we want to talk about that. All right, I'm going to need a little volunteer here. Does anybody wearing like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch in the room? I see a guy, hands go up. Where are you from?
Oxford, UK.
Okay, so this is a great example. So Oxford, UK, okay. So we have over 56,000 deaths a year in the US because of influenza. That's a lot of people that die every year because of influenza. One of the things that's fascinating about influenza is that you're shedding virus sometimes 1, 2, 2.5 days before you actually feel sick. So imagine all those people, it's flu season, right? Imagine all those people sitting next to you, don't know they're sick, but they could be shedding virus on you. Now, one thing that's interesting, and one of the things we're looking for is what bioinformatic information might be coming off of you. Could you be sweating a little bit? Could your heart rate be up? Did you maybe miss the gym or sleep a little harder last night or thing that might suggest that you're in the process of getting influenza? Let's just say you have a 50 or a 60% chance. Now imagine your wearable that you're wearing that's with you every day using machine learning that learns from you over time your pattern. And suddenly it starts to notice something's a little different. And it has the same parameters. Your heart rate's up, you're sweating a little bit more, you're breathing a little bit. You still feel fine, you're not feeling sick. Don't worry anybody around him, okay? He feels fine right now. And based on that, then, you get a little ding that comes up, and it says, hey, I have Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance. You click the button, your doctor or nurse practitioner wants to talk to you because some of the signals that they're seeing come in from you. You don't feel sick again, but they're seeing some signals. Well, based on the data, you may have a 50, 60% chance you're going to get influenza the next couple days. We'd like to send you a point-of-care diagnostic out. Uber's going to be downstairs on the first floor in about 5 minutes. You're going to go down there, pick it up, you take a swab, whatever the technology is, right? So now we got notification that you might be sick before you know sick, right? We're sending you out through telemedicine. We got Uber delivering you a medical countermeasure. You plug it into your phone, doctor gets back on the phone and says, hey, based on what we're seeing here, we think you're going to have influenza, and it's probably going to hit you on Friday as you're on your way back over the pond to UK, right? About Greenland. And at that point, you say, but what we could do is we could give you an antiviral today. Why is that important? Because if we give you an antiviral when your viral load is lower, it works a lot better. If we wait to Friday to give you the antiviral, it doesn't work so good. If we wait to Sunday when you show up in the emergency room, it really doesn't work as well, right? So early notification to act, control, and treat is about disrupting the paradigm to tell you you're sick before you even knew you're sick in non-invasive ways using technology that you're already doing. And then take that and pair that with things so you can be you're empowered with your healthcare provider to act, control, and treat. Let's say we don't have an antiviral and it's a public health emergency. Maybe you just stay home. Maybe you telework that day. So you can see how these technologies can really disrupt the way we deal with influenza today. We're looking at some technologies that are like a little patch, like a little tattoo you can put on that tells you have influenza. So we want to empower patients and healthcare providers. We want to reduce the impact. We want reliable data. We want to bring innovation home to the individual. That is how Drive is disrupting innovation. We get to sepsis. All roads lead to sepsis. We're a national security program. Our job is to make sure we save lives and protect Americans. If there's a terrorism attack with a biological threat like anthrax or smallpox, or it's a chemical attack, emerging infectious disease, or pandemic influenza. And one thing we know is all roads lead to sepsis if we're not able to stop the original pathogens that cause the problem. And we can't say, hey, you didn't die of a bacterial infection, we got the bacterial, but you died of sepsis. Or you didn't die of influenza, you died of sepsis. No, we need to protect all Americans. So one of our overarching programs that impacts all of our organization is the importance of solving sepsis from a national security perspective. And we need to be able to treat people with sepsis in an environment like this, not in an ICU that might be resourced during an emergency. So here's some updated numbers from the video we showed. 1.7 million people in the US every year have sepsis. 270,000 deaths a year from sepsis. More from influenza, more than from bacterial infections, more than from car crashes, 270,000 deaths a year. 1 in 3 hospital deaths come from sepsis at a $24 billion healthcare cost. I always like to say, when people say, where are your money going to come from for Drive? I say, if I can figure out how to solve $24 billion in healthcare costs, I think we'll have plenty of money coming in to fund the next generation of innovation. This is today in our hospitals. We don't have a flood. We don't have pandemic influenza. We don't fighting an emerging infectious disease today, right? And we have 270,000 deaths. What's going to happen after a public health emergency? So one of the principles of Drive, remember, is empowering doctors and providers. If we empower them today to solve sepsis in their hospital, we build scalable models that can work during a public health emergency. If we can't solve these 270,000 deaths now, how are we going to be able to do that in a public health emergency? So now we're working to say across the spectrum, how do we address the challenge of sepsis, and how do we make it scalable during a public health emergency? So how are we doing that? Remember that paradigm I showed you earlier on when we were looking at the response network, everything from awareness the whole way through your experience to the ICU and out for readmission? We've empowered 1 PM on our sepsis team, Dr. Kim Sharetta, to manage our whole program across this. Everything for how she's partnering with our interagency partners to move better education, how she's making sure EMS providers know what to look for sepsis just like they look for stroke and heart attack, the whole way through predictive learning to potentially identify how do we treat a patient with supportive care based on where they are on the spectrum. She's using new diagnostics and new systems, but her overall goal, decrease mortality, morbidity, healthcare costs, and readmissions. If we can drive that impact down, no matter what technology she needs to invest in that pay, that's how we're going to measure our success of this program, because that's what results in saving lives and protecting Americans. If you have solutions in this space, we'd love to talk to you. And I can introduce you to Kim, and she can go through the program. We have some of our leading experts in the country in sepsis coming together. This is a busy slide, but I just want to highlight, we talked about a lot with Drive. We've talked about accelerators and our new non-dilutive. We've talked about Drive-X and our non-diluting funding. We know that there's a development pipeline where you start at hit to lead and you go through phase 1. That's at TRL 3 to 6. That's where BARDA invests. Success for us is you make it to the clinic, you get a great deal with Amazon or J&J, or you want to transition to our late stage program at BARDA, and we're able to move that innovation forward. My job is to move you from TRL 3 to 6 and transition you for follow-on investment. Above the line, you have your traditional players, friends and family, right? Sometimes I call that friends, family, and full stage, right? That early stage. You got angels. I was supposed to get a laugh out of this group, but maybe it's too serious for many of you guys at that early stage, right? Series A, B, C. We recognize that those are the players. Those are the ones that are partnering with you to drive it forward. BARDA is also interested in partnering with our venture capital community to move these programs forward. We see that synergy between that. And lastly, we're looking at 2 new venture vehicles that we can do so we can participate in those programs through the different vehicles if that's what you need. You need to raise a Series A or a Series B, we can partner with it. That's our Drive Ventures program. So think of it as a funnel. You're coming today, you need business support service. I have an accelerator that can help you with that. You need access to reimbursement strategies, things. Maybe my internal team can help you work on that. You need some access to capital, or you put in a series together. Hey, our ventures component can help you. You just need non-dilutive capital to move you from this proof of concept to the next stage so you can get that next Series B. Hey, we can help you there. So you come to us and tell us what your challenge is. If you're in our space and we can make investment, we'll partner with you in the right way that makes sense for you, or maybe even a combination of these different strategies to move you forward. At the end of the day, our goal is to accelerate. Remember, we have a lot of interagency international partners at the below. We're just one component of this overall system, and if there's any other way we can help partner or make connections to you in any of those other networks and our interagency partners, we're happy to do that. So, 6 months in, we have 6 programs in our portfolio. Really excited about the companies that we've added. These are early companies. You remember I told you we had the Powered by CARB-X brand that we were building. We took that same idea. We now have the Powered by Drive brand. So the venture capital community out here, you start seeing logos of Powered by Drive. That means that BARDA is making an investment, non-diluted, into those companies and driving them forward. Some really cool companies. Spire, they have their health tag. They're working on a regulated device. I know they're out there. I just met with them yesterday, running around JP Morgan looking for additional investments and opportunities. In license, a really cool technology is using your sweat and a biomarker to tell you you're sick before you know you're sick. BioBeats is a cleared product that's also looking to maybe help us in influenza, working our DARPA study, and Pronosis, Inamed, and Cytovale are companies that are on our sepsis program. So really innovative companies, new ideas. We've made all these awards in less than about 30 to 60 days. So really getting the capital out there to partner with them. We have another host of companies that are going to be following this. These are just our initial awards. So if you want to know a little bit more about Drive, what specifically we're working for in our ENACT program, what we're looking for in our sepsis program, we have some great program managers. They're not here with me today. Dr. Julie Schaefer runs our ENACT program, and Dr. Kim Sharetta runs our sepsis program. If you're interested and you maybe work with an accelerator, or you know a local accelerator that might be interested, we'd love to talk to them. Donna Boston runs our accelerator. We have a really simple address. It's drive, drive.hhs.gov. You can go there. We have a little sign up at the bottom. You can sign up and give all your information, or give us your email, and we'll send out our newsletter to you. You can find out about how to submit your EZBAA. And remember, it's only 4,000-word abstract you put together. Most people get it done in less than a day, and you can submit it to us, and we can give you up to $750,000 in financing in less than a week. So I'll leave you with a similar slide that I left you with in 2017 for CARB-X. But if you have a disruptive innovation, if you want to empower healthcare providers, if you want to empower patients, we're looking for your technology. And the question I have for you will be, in 2019, will you be powered by Drive? Thank you very much. We have time for questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I had a question. I'm from UCSF. And is this exclusively for companies, or say in the sepsis space, if there are academic innovations, could they apply for these?
That's a great question. One of my favorite questions I get. Yeah, great question. So we'll start with Drive, okay? So, we're going to have a lot of interagency partners are going to be here. They're going to tell you about some of their NIH grants and programs. One of the key differences between us and NIH is my leadership, our organization, measures success based on FDA-approved products that are available to save lives and protect Americans. There's other groups, NIH, National Science Foundation, that fund great research, right? Which is a key component. So what we're looking for okay, if you're in an academic setting, is have you worked with your technology transfer office to figure out your IP and get it out? Are you ready to spin it out to a company? Some large organizations have like an institute it goes to, or a center, or an incubator, or accelerator. So what we're looking for is not just funding a research science with a great idea, but we want to work with you to get that technology spun out, transform it, and then move that investment forward, okay? And move that technology forward. So that's a key aspect for us, and if you want specific details on that, we can talk about your technology, where you guys are, and how to do that. But our metric is accelerating that program forward, so making sure we're moving towards a medical countermeasure.
Yeah, this is for a product.
Yep.
We're a startup with a 30-second handheld food test. We've talked to BARDA about it in the past, and we sort of bounced off. They told us, too early, go away, go to NIH, whatever. With the new DRIVE program, for early technology, what is the criteria? How much is necessary? How much existing data? How much working prototype? All of that. What stage do you have?
Great question, and thank you. So the question was specifically about what stage of development, and we'll say, across BARDA, traditionally we were picking things up at TRL 6 and moving forward. The challenge with that is we didn't always get that disruptive innovation. That's why we have a high risk, high reward new division called DRIVE to transform that program forward. I can't speak about your individual technology. I'm here doing one-on-ones, happy to meet with you and talk with you about that. If we can fit you obviously into the ENACT program, that makes sense. We have a home-based diagnostic program we're going earlier with, so we have a lot of things. So just because you've talked to us before, recognize that things may have changed. In the disruptive innovation area, which is a much broader area, that's a really high bar, right? We're gonna fund 2 or 3 of those. I want them to be in nature. I want them to be what you talk around the cocktail table, the really exciting things. And if you have something in that space we maybe haven't seen, bring it forward. But happy to talk to you afterwards, okay? Thanks. Yep.
I have a couple questions. I came in on the second half of your talk. I wanted to know why is ASPR focusing on sepsis, and then where are you guys located? Your headquarters.
The question was, why are we focused on sepsis? Okay, and then where are we located? Great. So we're in Washington, D.C., right down by the Capitol, but we bring international partners in. We have a lot of companies that we partner with all across the world and all across the country, small, medium, and large-sized company. We also bring a lot of our industry members that used to work for industry to come in to work for us to give us our advisory. Like, I've never developed a product other than what I supported at BARDA, but we have a toxicologist and clinical and CMC and regulatory people that has supported 10, 15 FDA-approved products that work on our team. They're our advisors that tell us, hey, this is what they need to do to tweak the product. To the question about sepsis, all roads lead to sepsis. So one of the key challenges for us from a public health emergency is it doesn't matter if it's pandemic influenza or emerging infectious disease. If you ultimately become septic in the hospital and you have an immune response in that sense and a cascade, we need to be able to protect you and save your life then. So it's really important that any one of our threats we face, it's a broad area we need to be able to respond to. Yes, sir.
I'm familiar with your website and your 3 categories of ENACT, sepsis, and then that nebulous other. Can you tell us what other is and what would be a response to an application that would be viewed as being responsive?
Sure, happy to. One of the challenges is we really want to look for that disruptive innovation. And sometimes when you're looking for that disruptive innovation, if you write criteria too tight, you eliminate people because it doesn't fit in that scope. So we actually went with a higher bar and said, we want a moonshot, we want a technology. I mentioned earlier, we're thinking the Airbnb, the Uber of life science. Technologies that I've seen that have been really exciting recently, 3D printing of vaccines. Means we wouldn't have to stockpile vaccines in advance, we could print them, we could change the way we are doing things. I'm seeing technologies that take vaccines, instead of having to do 3 doses of vaccines, you get all 3 doses up front with a wafer that it dissolves over a period of time and gives you your prime boost. We're looking at 2 innovative technologies that allow us to move that forward. So I can't give you an answer. What you can do is come to us and say, hey, is this disruptive? And tell us why it is going to change healthcare. And then we get to have a discussion about that. But we want to leave it open so that we don't limit things and we get into our own preconceived notions.
Do you regard the technology that prevents hospital-acquired infections in the ICU as being responsive to other?
So Why don't we have a quick one-on-one conversation? See, this is the problem when you leave something to go over. Let's have a one-on-one conversation. What I can tell you, a lot of our antibacterial programs, we still fund under CARB-X, right? So we try to differentiate on our sepsis program between host response and the specific pathogens so we can delineate that so we can tell you exactly where you want to go. It's also because how our teams are designed in that space. Okay, thanks. All right, I'll be around all day. I, again, want to thank you guys for coming here today. Looking forward to partnering with you as we continue to move forward. And additionally, we want to thank the conference team for inviting us back to speak today. Thank you.